An update now on that $1.3 billion project that would deepen the Cape Fear River.
We told you last night the North Carolina Department of Environmental Quality formally opposes the project. WECT's Connor Smith has learned new details about what that means for the project. Connor, is this dead in the water?
Well, Fran, this doesn't kill the project outright, but it does make it tougher to push ahead. The U.S. Army Corps of Engineers says they are disappointed with the state's objection, but they will review those concerns. Now, this project would deepen the Cape Fear River from 42 to 47 feet. Advocates say the project will allow bigger ships to get through, keeping the port of Wilmington competitive with its peers like ports in Savannah and Charleston. But the state's letter cited environmental concerns like PFAS contamination and flooding. The Engineer Corps is now deciding what to do next. Colonel Brad Morgan says the project can move forward without NCDEQ support, but half of the project needs state funds from the North Carolina Ports Authority.
We'd been working over the last 3.5 years. We thought in conjunction and coordination with them, we would still require a non-federal sponsor, likely the state, to participate and support this project moving forward.
Now, the North Carolina State Ports Authority declined to speak with us on camera today, instead sending over this statement. Quote, the North Carolina State Ports Authority values the work of the North Carolina Department of Environmental Quality and respects the concerns raised in this objection. We also appreciate the continued support of the U.S. Army Corps of Engineers as we review the content of this letter and determine next steps. And Colonel Morgan says their goal is to stay on track and complete an environmental impact statement by October. After that point, the project would require federal approval and more funding to move ahead. Fran?
So, Connor, what happens now?
Yeah, so the Engineer Corps can pause the project and work with NCDEQ to address those specific concerns. Colonel Morgan says they can also address them and move ahead without working directly with NCDEQ.